Good morning, friends. Okay, so today we'll go for a different subject or different chapter, that is disaster management. Okay, so first we will discuss about what is mean by disaster. So disaster is a serious problem occurring over a period of time that causes widespread human, material, economic, environmental loss which exceed the ability of affected community or society to cope using own resources. So disasters are routinely divided into either two types. We all know that is natural disaster, and one more is the human instigated disaster, which is the man made disaster. Okay, so actually the disaster having loss of lives and their property due to this disaster have been steadily mounting throughout the world due to inadequate technology to combat the disaster. The rise in population, climatic changes, and continuing ecological degradation. So one more thing is that we are going to develop our countries, develop our nations, develop our world, and develop so many things. So that development also caused the natural and man-made disaster both. So for that purpose we need to maintain, we need to develop, and we need to keep in mind that we should make the development according to environmental process or according to save the environmental areas, environmental regions, or environmental conditions. So first we will go for the types of disaster. So there are the some examples of disaster, that is classification of disaster. There are classification like that. First one is the water or climatic disaster. Then second is the geological disaster, biological disaster, industrial disaster, nuclear disaster, and one more is the man-made disaster. So in if we are going in the natural disaster, we can see that some disasters are there. So there are natural disasters are given in this field, that is geophysical, biological, meteorological, hydrological, and climatological. So according to geophysical disaster, geo means the earth, which are the disaster related to earth structure, that we call as a geophysical disaster. Okay, so first in geophysical disaster there is first term is that earthquake, second one is volcano, then landslide and rockfall. Okay, so these are the disasters. First one is the earthquake. The what is mean by earthquake? So earthquake is the, for in simply language, the earthquake means the shaking of earth crust. So earth having three segments, that is crust, core, and mantle. So core means that is inner part, which is somewhat in liquid form, that is liquid molten lava situated in the core structure. Then mantle structure having the semi solid format or semi solid state on upper side of the core and below the crust, and crust is the solid structure of the earth surface whichever we are living on that core area or crust area. Okay, so that is called as crust. Whenever the destructions or disturbance form into the core area, means which is in liquid area, the mantle and crust also get disturbed. So it is caused by the underground volcanic forces of breaking and shifting the rock beneath the earth surface, means in the mantle and core. So whenever they are disturbing, the earthquakes are found. Second is the volcano. So volcano is the whatever liquid magma or lava is situated in the core structure, which get released on the crust. So that is called as a volcano, or we also in simply language called as a volcanic eruption. Eruption means that is go out of the crust surface. So it is a release of hot magma or volcanic ash or gases from the volcano is called as the volcanic eruption. Then third one is the landslide. So landslide we have seen in the hilly areas, we are going to see in the hilly areas. So geological phenomena which includes the range of ground movement such as the rock falls, deep failure, slopes, shallow debris flows. This called as the landslide movement or landslide structures. So next one is the rockfall. So rockfall is, you know that rockfall means the landslide is the stone is falling on the surface of the structure, and rockfall is the bigger stone falls from the height of the structures, and these cause the lots of damage than landslide. Then next is the biological disaster. So these are the epidemic, infectious gases, insect bites. These are the common biological disasters. So we can understand that one recently occurred, that is COVID-19. So this was the biological natural disaster. Next is the meteorological disaster. So meteorological disaster means it is the local storm, that is tropical and extratropical cyclones, tornadoes. These are the meteorological disasters. So meteorological disasters which is happened in the happened in the sea level or any type of the water related structures. uh, so local storms, you know that that is a flooded area, that is tropical and extratropical cyclones means that is tropical and extratropical cyclones. These meteorological disaster normally occurs due to wind directions. So whatever wind directions happen or wind flow happens, that is forcefully, or the backward directions or in irregular flows, that is called as a meteorological disaster. These are the totally depends on the wind structures. Then next is the hydrological disaster. Hydrological disasters. So hydrological disasters are generally happens in the water structure. So there are the some points. Hydrological disaster includes that tsunami, floods, that is hailstorms, then landslides, rockfalls, etc. So when wet landslides are done, that is comes under the hydrological structures, and the rockfall is also having the wet and dry parts. So dry parts we considered into geophysical disaster, and wet part we considered into hydrological disaster. So tsunami, one more type of the hydrological disasters. What is mean by the tsunami? So in simply language, you can see that the earthquake happens into inner part of the oceans or seas, that we called as a tsunami. So next is the flood. That is flood happened due to, that is heavy rainfalls or the hurricanes. So we these called as the hydrological disaster. Next one is the climatological disaster. There are some points, that is heat wave, cold wave, drought and forest fire. So heat wave, cold waves, you know that the drought means that is dry disaster, and next is the forest fire. These are the some natural disasters. So heat wave, that is prolonged period for the excessively hot weather which is relatively to usual weather pattern of an area, which is relative to normal temperatures for the seasons. And the cold waves, that is extremely opposite to the that. Next is the flood means, that is fire means, that is fire that originate inhabited area which pose the risk to spread the inhabited areas. So like that wildfire, climate change effects, etc. One more is the climatical disaster, is that lighting strike, and so an electrical discharge caused by the lighting, that is typically during thunderstorm. This is also called comes under the climatological disaster. So and next part is that next main function is the man-made disaster. So there are the some types. One is the terrorist attacks, aircraft crashes, the industrial accidents, fires, explosions, pollution incidents, that shipping, rail disaster, mining accidents, building collapse, cyber attacks, frauds. These comes under the man-made disaster. So in next lecture, we will explain what is mean by man-made disaster and disaster management structures.